biometric data and fingerprints. There's been announcements in the news that governments are requiring biometric data, which means your physical appearance, the way you walk, anything they can use to identify you, or fingerprints, which means you all know what a fingerprint is. It's something that you put on a piece of ink or on a special type of paper or a digital device. For example, my computer has a fingerprint scanner on it. Most people don't need to worry about these technologies. So I'm going to start with fingerprinting because it's obvious. Fingerprinting is in general used for two things: whether or not you touch something that's in a building or in a room, in a place where you're not supposed to be, because obviously in your home, your fingerprints are going to be on the doorknobs and on the tabletops, on the bottles, etc., on the glass. But if you're not supposed to be somewhere, your fingerprint shouldn't be there either. So for most people, it's not going to matter. Fingerprints don't matter for most people. The other example is if you hold something, let's say a pair of scissors. Let's say you're holding a pair of scissors and you can be identified as the person who last used the scissors because your fingerprints are on the scissors. So chances are you're not going to hold a pair of scissors. Maybe you don't even own a pair. So most people are not impacted by fingerprinting. You're only going to use it to identify that you are in a certain place when signing a document or when using one of the scanners where you pass your fingerprint. You're only going to use it when you're maybe at the bank or at a port of entry. You might not ever use your fingerprints. I lived in Colombia in South America. They fingerprint every document, just like a signature. You would sign a document and you would fingerprint. If you get a mortgage, if you get a contract with a business, if you get a bank account, you get fingerprinted. Now with the biometric data, right now they take a photograph of your face and they put it on your ID, and it might have your height, your gender, and your race. Could have other things such as your address. Now, the new biometric data would be a scan of your iris, which is your eye, which can identify you because it should be unique. Obviously, your facial features are quite unique also, but they do change. For example, you could grow a beard. Now, you shouldn't worry about this, and I'm going to explain why. The reason why is because it has to do with photography. The cameras that are going to be coming in the future are going to be better and better technology. They're going to be able to take a picture of you and put it on your ID, and it will be able to scan your eye just with a regular photo camera for your driver's license. It's going to happen. That's how high the resolution is going to become. You'll be able to do facial recognition. It's already available. And the eye recognition in general, before you had to stand in front of the eye scanning device. Eventually, they're going to make it so that you're going to walk past it and it's going to, or you're going to look at it. They'll put something up above, you look at it, and it scans your eye when you're close to it. You don't have to worry about it so much if you're far away because the camera has to zoom in, and it's hard to track a distant object when you're zoomed in. And the resolution of current cameras is pretty good, but you still got to be somewhat close to the camera. You can't be miles away in general and just scan a crowd of people by their eyeballs. If you're at a baseball stadium and you're watching a game, they could potentially identify people by just scanning the stadium and have it over a short period of time identify people. Facebook did it many years ago through the tagging feature. It automatically recognized faces. This technology is going to happen. With the eye scanning, biometric data, and the facial recognition, they will be able to identify you when you're in an urban area or inside of a building. especially if it's a government building or a large private company or a large retail company like Starbucks. And the reason why is because they're going to have the cameras. But in private homes, they're not going to have it. In residential communities, they're not going to have it. You get into a taxi, maybe someday it will have it, but won't have it immediately. But at some point, they are going to have this technology everywhere. At some point, they're going to be able to know if you walk into a grocery store based on your biometric data. They probably know if you go into a casino. They probably know if you go into a big shopping mall. There's definitely going to be companies that are going to use it. They have to pay for the software. It's not free. It's an expense. It's something they're not required to do by law. They have to decide to do it. Uh, the companies like a casino have a lot to protect, so obviously they're going to do it. So it's going to become more and more widespread. It's going to be more widespread in countries like the United Kingdom. I believe in London, there are video cameras everywhere. So if you're sitting on a park bench, you probably got multiple cameras on you and they have audio. So the person watching the camera can talk to you. If you put a cigarette out on the ground, they will tell you to pick up the cigarette and put it in the bin. So the biometric data is coming. You're not going to be able to avoid it because the law in most countries is that if you're in a public space, which means a government building, a public road, a public park, anybody can record you. If you're in a private property where you freely enter and leave at your own will, they have the right to film you. That's all of the retail stores. That's not including a private club. A private club might be different because in order to be in the private club, you have to have an agreement. You have to consent. The private club is going to have a document where you consent to it. It's not going to be retroactive, of course. Private homes, probably not going to have it. So biometric data is going to happen. When you go to a country and they say, we're going to collect biometric data, we're going to collect fingerprints, you shouldn't worry about the fingerprints, probably not likely to impact you. The biometric data, eventually it's going to impact you. But how many of you travel to a foreign country? I know that the percentage of people that travel is very low. I would be surprised if 5% of Americans leave the US. In Europe, actually in Europe, the Schengen Agreement, you can go to other countries without going through customs or immigration. So it's going to impact very few people. Maybe a few times in your life you're going to go outside your country. The number of times it's going to impact you internationally is going to be very few. It's going to impact people that travel a lot, which means you have an international business or a politician or maybe an international athlete. Most people will not be impacted by fingerprinting or biometric data. Now, obviously, there is biometric data if you live in a big city like New York City. It is kind of already there. If you go into a public building like a bus station, they're going to need to have it. They need to know if someone walks into that bus station that is going to be a danger to the other people in the station. So that's going to happen. A lot of you have a private home, you have a private car, you go to your local grocery store. A lot of you really don't need to worry about this, especially because you're paying by credit card. They already know that you went into the store because you bought something on your credit card. So I think that it's going to have a small impact on your life. I have a philosophy. If the government does it, you should be allowed to have access to that. You should be allowed to say, well, I'm getting a divorce. I want to see all the records for my spouse, all the places that she entered over the course of the past year, so that I can see the court records or on these certain days. If the government's collecting the data, let us use the data also. Or if you want to say, hey, why was my kid home late on Friday night? I want the records from the local bar or something like that. You should be allowed to have access to that. That makes it fair, and people will accept the biometric data if everyone has access to it. But if it's limited, the more limited it is, if only the government has access to it, people are going to be suspicious of it. Okay, so this is my video about biometric data and about fingerprinting. If you have any questions or comments, please post below. You can go to my discussion forum at cheapbooks.cc. I do have a politics section that this would fall under. And you can go to cheapbooks.com to search for books and textbooks. If you have any questions or comments, please post below.